Hi everyone, happy Friday. Rachel Mallis, I'm gonna add you. Look who's in the house,
Hey,
she's back.
hi.
How are
How's it
you,
going?
Rachel?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I've been looking forward to just some like nice, easy bead time with you. I was gonna
Yeah.
bead along with you today, and I was like, no, I have about the energy to host and chat with you. And then hopefully leave today's class with some ideas from you about using large gemstones, which is the challenge we threw at you for this week. How do you think the
Yeah.
challenge went?
I think it was fun. It was a bit of a challenge. You know me. Anytime you give me you're like, make something with this. It doesn't have to be complicated. And in my mind, I'm like, I've got to make something I've never seen before. Every single time.
You have to change the world every week.
Yes, that's what
No.
exactly. So I gave myself a little bit of a challenge. I love working with large gemstones, though. I think it's like a great way to see just the beauty of the bead and the
Mhm.
gems.
I totally agree. Yeah, especially with like large beads, you actually can like see the full like structure and um I don't know. Sometimes with smaller beads, you just don't get to see the full appreciation. That's often like when I say on the live, so like, oh, I really like it in 10 millimeter because I can really see the bead really nicely.
Yeah, I
And
love
then,
like the kyanite hishi that you had, the big
mhm,
ones.
mhm.
When we did the project, the like garden rose bracelet, like turn them on their side, and you could see them so much better.
Yeah, totally. How you been, Rachel? What's been up in your world? Did you go on a cruise?
I did go on a cruise. That was really fun. I got a really bad sunburn.
Good. That means it was good vacation.
Now I'm like a snake and I just peel. But yeah, it was fun. It was my first time on a cruise, and anytime we hit a wave that was like any kind of, I don't know what they call it in sea terms, but I was calling it turbulence, and I was like, we're gonna die. This is Titanic number 3. Because there was a Titanic number 2, and that also sank. So
Wait, what?
yeah, I'm like 90% sure that's a thing I read about a
I've
long
never
time
heard of
ago.
this, but I'm not shocked. I
Yeah.
think they've figured out boats by now, and I'm glad they have because you're still with us to teach and be
Yes.
with us today.
Yeah. The boat didn't sink. What do you know?
Yeah, but we both know if that boat sank, you'd still be alive to this day. You would have swam to shore.
Me.
Yeah,
It's
I know
been
you
a
would. I
long
know you
time
would have
since
taken one of those paddle boats.
yeah, I'm not the best swimmer anymore, but yeah.
So let's see the project that you came up with. I'll add your overhead.
Yes. So I love combining different materials. So for this project, I combined stringing with some. I I lightly call it wire work. It's not super wire worky. It's kind of stringing, but the wire gives it some fun structure. So I strung these beads and crimped, and then accented in between them with seed beads and wire.
So it's
Um,
strung up, and then afterwards you're adding the wire as accents.
yeah. Mm-hmm. And
I've
I
not, I
will
don't think
we'll
I've
also
ever
go over
quite
this
seen that.
clasp too. Yeah,
Way cool.
no,
I don't
see,
think
I
I've seen
told you
this.
I've got to change the world every project.
I'm so fascinated. Like, I also just like this sort of technique could be applied to literally anything.
I'm really excited to see uh, what everyone else does with it. When we make it today, I'm going to make it with kind of like similar beats, and then it'll be really fun to see what everybody else comes up with.
Um, it's almost like you've come up with a wire crimp cover
That honestly is like basically exactly what it is.
because
There's a
that's
crimp
actually
in
such a
between
fun
each one of
idea.
these. I've I've thought a lot about crimp covers, and I have not come up with a lot of solutions to them, but
Uh-huh.
I don't love crimp covers. I
So,
wish they were more interesting. So
agreed.
this was an interesting way I kind of came up with to give it a little bit more body and to cover the crimps.
I'm so intrigued. Okay, so with kind of like my first questions to you about with you when you use first off, do you like to use large gemstones in your designs?
Yes, I don't use them as often as I use smaller ones, and I think that's because I see smaller ones more often, but I like to use
Mhm.
the large ones, especially as pendants. You can create around them to make them even into a bigger pendant, or you can simply like string them and then taper down with other beads. That kind of necklace
Mm.
is a great use for like hishis too. So you have like a big focal bead, and then you could take all these different hishis and taper down. It's really
Yeah, like
beautiful.
what's like with your necklace, I'm seeing some larger stones paired
Oh
with
yeah, it's
the
the
pendant.
ocean jasper.
Which ocean jasper?
Ocean jasper from you.
I had ocean jasper
So
donuts. Let's see.
you had discs.
Oh, the
They're
discs, of
like
course.
so it's the rough aquamarine is also from you. This may have been from you a very long time ago. I'm not sure. Um,
And how
I
is that?
think
Is that all knotted together?
it's wire work.
Oh my gosh. Wait, can you show us a close-up? Because I can't tell how those beads are connected. You might have to give us a little glance at this one if you're willing, if we have time later today, because it's very
Sorry, I'm
fascinating.
wiping off my camera. Is that better? No, maybe a little.
Yeah, we can see it. I'm so curious how those pieces
I
are
have it
connected.
actually. I have a pretty good picture of it in Rainbow Gems right now.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. This is a new piece of yours.
Yes,
I love.
and I'm obsessed with it. It took a
Yeah,
long time to figure out how I wanted it, but I
and I
love
can
it.
see what you're saying about using kind of a gradient of large stones in that piece. You have your large focal, and then you still featured some. Those
Hmm.
coins are not small.
No, they're let's see.
I'm gonna guess
They are
18.
20 millimeters.
Whoa, it's not a small bead,
No,
and I
it's
think
not.
and used right, I think it actually like it works really nicely. I think there's a lot of I think folks have a lot of hesitation around large large beads, and I want to like push us a little bit more to
Yeah,
see like what.
I feel like the 20 millimeter does seem big, but these are also flat, so it's not like they're round and 20 millimeters, which could be a little bit huge,
Mhm.
honestly. But I feel like when you see the millimeters, say like 12 millimeters, 18 millimeters, whatever,
Mhm.
you assume that because it's like sounds like such a big number that it's going to be like huge. But when you get them, they're not as huge as and unworkable as you would think. They're actually make for really good statement necklaces, like these apatite that I got from you
Mhm.
that are 13 by 18 millimeters, and they look like way less huge than they sound when you look at them in my hand.
Yeah.
I actually used two of these for a pair of earrings, which is they're not that heavy, so it was perfect.
Yeah, I think shape is a big thing to think about when you're looking at the size of a bead because yeah, a 20 millimeter hishi versus 20 millimeter round have very different
Yeah,
like like weights and just amount of like volume they take up. Um, so that's probably something to help keep in mind if you're worried about your piece becoming too heavy. Um, do you think a lot about weight when you're designing?
depends on what I'm designing. When I'm designing necklaces, not really.
Hmm.
When I'm designing earrings, absolutely.
Hmm.
Um, so not everyone can wear humongous earrings. Even I
True.
can't always wear humongous earrings. So,
Yes. Yeah.
but with necklaces, I don't think so much about the weight because I know there's um, an audience for everything, I think. Um, I always think about when I'm making chunky necklaces. I don't know if you ever watched Bones,
A little
um,
bit.
but
I remember the
Temperance
vampire
Brennan
guy.
had like a bunch of, yes, he's not a vampire in Bones. Um, human.
Continue.
But Brennan, the main character, she has like chunky necklaces, especially in the first couple seasons. She wears like more chunky necklaces, and I love that. So
Do you remember if they were large all the way around, or if there was like how do you remember how they were balanced?
no,
Fair. I was just curious. All right, I'm gonna.
I feel like large, like in the pendant area, like the when I design with really big beads like this, like the project we're doing today, the whole thing isn't these huge. I mean, they're not huge, but the whole thing isn't them. There's the part that'll go back around your neck is lighter, and that way also the necklace hangs correctly. So the more weight on the front keeps it on the front of the body.
That makes a lot of sense. So do you want to take us through what you need for this project?
Sure. So you need soft flex. I'm actually using Econoflex just because it's what I have the most of right now. It's a little bit, I find it to be a little bit thinner than regular medium soft flex. So I would use regular medium soft flex if you have it. It stands up a little bit better. I bought
Yeah.
this because I wanted to see what it was like.
Yeah. How many strands is in that Econoflex?
It is only 7 strands as opposed to the, what is this, 49 strands that are in the, so this
Yeah.
is the regular medium, and it's nice because it doesn't kind of stay trapped in the shape. I feel like it gives a little bit better movement, but for this project, this one was okay because I didn't need super like amazing movement. This one's great for I think like bracelets, not so much a lot of the projects I've done, but see, this one kind of holds the kinks a little bit more.
I would say for folks, Softflex's recommendation when using larger gemstones is to go for thicker stringing wires. So a medium or heavy is usually a good bet for large gemstones. If it's especially a gemstone that's quite rough and could cut into the wire over time, then they recommend the heavy because it'll like last the longest.
This one
In
we're
this case,
using,
Rachel's using medium, so it does have a decent coat to it, but it probably isn't quite as strong as say like a medium soft flex, standard soft flex would be. And that's probably what my recommendation would be if for constructing this piece.
the medium standard soft flex also comes in a lot more colors.
Yeah.
But like I said, this is what I have the most of on hand, so this is what I'm going to use, and it'll work for this project. It'll work exactly the same as the medium soft flex if that's what you're using. And so we're going to use this, and then we need crimps. Crimps. And you're going to need 28 gauge wire. You might be able to get away with a heavier gauge wire, just depending on how big the holes are on your beads.
Do you say 28 gauge?
Yeah, 26 is fine. Don't use 24 though. I think that would be too stiff.
I don't think I own 20.
It was in the instructions.
No, I know. I'm fully aware. I've never even thought to purchase 28 gauge because I always thought 26 would be my thin
I
one.
always thought 28 would be like way too thin, and I use it so often.
Interesting. Okay.
I love trapping with it. And then you're going to need your beads. These ones you can see that I'm going to use today are actually significantly larger than the ones that I used in this project, which the ones that I used are 30 millimeters, and these are, 35. I think these are meant to be focals, but these are like 40 millimeters.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be fun to use them also because I think, yeah, it'd be fun to use them. And then you also need seed beads. This is the mix from the December bead box. I thought it would be fun to use those today.
Oh, very fun.
And you need a clasp and however you want to finish your necklace. So you can do it with like 3 strands of seed beads, which I did. It took forever to string this, or I'll show you how to end it so that you can attach, like if you wanted to do how on the necklace I'm wearing, I have a strand of the other beads. So these are scenery jasper, how I just strung up some 8mm ones of those and made kind of a chain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you use chain, I would use like a chunky chain to finish this necklace. But I didn't have any chain that I was very, very happy with, so I decided to string a chain.
It's really pretty. It's a nice little bonus technique there. Like it's really actually quite lovely to see the little sparkles of the seed beads with your piece.
Thank you. And for your seed beads, I don't have a specific size. I'm not a seed beader. The ones I use in this necklace are vintage. They are actually not consistent in size at all. So use what you have. You don't have to go out and buy anything new.
Yeah, and the mix
Yeah,
there is 10-0, which is pretty similar to, Danielle said, to
good size.
11-0 in the Japanese seed beads.
I think the ones I use here are a tiny bit bigger, but these are going to look great. And then if you want to have crimp covers, you can have crimp covers. We are going to be using, if I didn't put them away, let's see, the magical crimping pliers. You can use regular crimping pliers, but I love these. And were you going to stock these?
Yeah. I've had them in the past, and I think I have another shipment coming from Softflex.
I love these.
Rachel has mastered them. I have not. Still found them quite tricky. I've watched the tutorials so many times, and mine look bad. But Rachel has practiced a lot and has really figured it out over the last year.
I'm like the queen of put crimps everywhere. I'm like, if we're going to use 20 crimps for this project, maybe we did. I'm not sure actually how many I used for this project, but I use a lot of crimps. Are you reading the comments too?
I'm leaving it to you.
I stopped mid-sentence. Did I stop mid-sentence?
Yeah, I thought you had frozen.
I'm sorry. Yes, so we're gonna use crimps for this project. And then if you want to make a clasp, we're gonna use 18 gauge wire. You could probably do it with 20 gauge if you wanted to hammer it some more after. I do still hammer it a little bit with 18 gauge. But if you're going to do 20 gauge, I would absolutely definitely hammer it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we're going to use the magical clippers. We're going to use our flash cutters or whatever cutters you use to cut things. Chain nose pliers.
It's not too. This is not. It's the basic tools for a stringing and wire work project. So it's nice that there's nothing too complicated right here.
And then if we're making the clasp, round nose pliers, but I don't think I used those if I wasn't making the clasp. So, oh, and probably a ruler. I feel like that maybe goes without saying, but so to make a piece just like this, you're going to need 6 pieces of 14 inches of soft flex. But let me reword that. You're going to need 6 14-inch pieces of soft flex. And I usually cut the first one and then I cut more. Does anybody else not like to take the little plastic protector off? I like it on there.
I didn't know that you could unwind the spool with the plastic on there. To be honest,
it depends on which one it is. It doesn't work great for all of them, but I like. Oh, something I forgot to mention that would be very helpful to have is one of the little bead stoppers, or like a piece of tape or something I find these so handy. I use them on literally everything, not just stringing projects. I use them in wire work. I use them for knotting. I use them to play with when I'm talking on the phone.
Wait, back up. What do you use while on the phone?
The little bead stopper. It's so fun
Oh,
to
it has a
play
fidget toy. I love that.
with.
That's funny.
I like to fidget, so I'm just cutting these pieces. So this would theoretically give you enough for probably a 26-inch necklace. If you want it to be longer than that, I would cut longer pieces. And mine ended up being, I think it's more like 24 because I gave it like this really long tassel on the bottom. And if you don't want to add the beaded strands, you can cut less.
What do you mean by the beaded strands, Rachel?
The beaded strands, like if you wanted to finish this with a chain, or you wanted to finish this with another strand of, well,
Gotcha.
mainly with a chain, or if you want to finish it with like wire work and bigger beads. I'll show you how to just cut down to one strand too.
Okay.
Because that's helpful. 3. Okay, I need one more. Let's see.
I'm so fascinated to see where all these strands go because I don't see it. I'm like, isn't it like 2 strands?
It's 3 on each side.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So it kind of depends also on how big your hole is on your beads. So you can either string 4 of these strands through. Ooh, these beads have a little hole. Little bitty hole. So you can either string 4 of your strands. Such a big bead. I like really didn't expect the hole to be that small, but it's
I know
fine.
usually large beads have decent sized holes.
These
Yeah,
I
I
did
can't help.
not get from Sam. I've had them for literally ever. So we're gonna string. This is gonna be our center bead. We're gonna string 1 through, and then I should make sure that the wire is also gonna fit through this. It looks like the holes are giant, but they're not drilled consistently.
Yeah, I could have a little bit of like old dust and things from the drilling process and from being
It'll
old.
be okay.
Sometimes like a little awl could help.
Okay. So it'll be okay. We're gonna string 1 through, and then the rest we're going to have on the outside, and we're gonna crimp them there. So you'll have 3 on one side and 2 on the other, or if you're able to fit, these beads surprisingly had humongous holes, and I was able to fit 4 strands in them and 2 on the outside. But if not, that is okay too. These ones, the hole was like an anomaly. It was humongous. But this is just for the center bead. You really only need to be able to fit 1 strand through here. And dump out some crimps. Okay.
So you're saying one string go through, any other strands can go on the outside should
On
you
the
want
outside.
it. Okay.
Yes.
That makes perfect sense.
You only need 1 to fit. It'll be okay.
So Rachel's got 2mm sterling silver soft flex crimps there.
Yes. Okay. So I am going to do these in batches of 3. Sorry, my hand is shaking. Get them on the crimp. There we go.
So you're putting the crimp on all 3 strands there?
Yes. The magical crimping pliers and softflex crimps work perfect up to 3 strands of medium softflex. Okay, come on.
How perfect.
There we go. Okay.
Rachel and I
Then
have found that the sterling have the biggest holes of the crimps they offer. The copper crimps I tend to
because of
only be able to get 2
those
strands through.
tiny holes.
It's because they have such thick walls, but
Yeah.
then it's oh, and sorry, I interrupted our first
No,
demo
it's
moment
okay.
of the magical crimping pliers.
So I took the magical crimping pliers and I centered the crimp in between them. And what you have to know is that you have to get the crimp to where you can't see it. And I think that's where a lot of people mess up, is that you have to not be able to see the crimp from either side when you squish it, because that's what messes it up.
That's
So
probably
you've got to
my
center
error.
it. Once you get that down, the beads turn out pretty good every time.
It's then from there that I often get off. Even if I made that first nice ravioli, it's then like, what angle can you go at it from then any angle? Because I usually turn 90 degrees and then it becomes messed up again.
Yes, but you have to make sure that you keep centering it. Because if you start to like just not care about where it is inside the crimp or inside your pliers, then it's not gonna look correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're gonna put one of these strands on one side of this. One's a little tricky because none of them is going to be inside the bead. So these are all on the bottom too. That's where the trickiest part is, getting all 3 of these wires under the crimp. There we go.
So you're doing the 3
Okay.
for the other side of the necklace.
Yeah, I have 1 on the front and 2 on the back, or whichever side you want the front and the back to be. It doesn't matter. So I'm just holding them here, and this is so that they're not going to get, they're going to have space in between them, so it'll be okay. It'll make sense.
Or
This
no, I
is
see it
tricky.
happening. It's essentially like a knotting technique you're using crimps.
Yes. It works a lot easier if you're able to get 4 of them into the bead, but this works too. We're going to connect everything. It'll be fine. So now I'm going to take my 3 that I have on the outside that I just did, that I'm mixing up, and I'm going to crimp 2 of them to the one that is going through my bead so that it is anchored to the bead. So I have 1 from the top and 1 from the bottom of that second crimp I just did.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Now, if you don't get this really tight, you may need to put another crimp on the bottom just to make sure nothing's going anywhere.
Ruth, just to kind of clarify what Rachel did, because there's a total of 6 strands, she's doing them in batches of 3. The first 3 had 2 going on the outside of the bead and 1 going on through the inside. The second batch of wire, since she couldn't get another strand through the bead in this case, which usually you could, she put a crimp at the bottom of the 3 strands and then ran them along the bead and then crimped it at the top in a way so that everything is kind of held together.
Yes, the goal is to keep it held together. And we're going to come back in at the bottom and wrap it with some wire too. That's how we're going to anchor the wire, and that will also help keep your strings from going haywire, because you can still kind of pull this to the side if you wanted to, but we're gonna wrap it with wire. But so what I did was I have this, and there are 2 strands on.
We've lost you on camera, Rachel.
What happened?
You just need to lower your hands down a little
Oh.
bit. Nothing
It's
happens.
only you, Sam.
Yep, you did it. You did a me, indeed.
Okay. Yes, we can see YouTube comments on here, by the way. Gumnut. Yes. And anyway, so I have the one that I did first, which is 1 strand through and then 1 on each of the outside. And then the second one that I did is 2 strands on one side and 1 strand on the other. None of the strands are through. Then from that, I took 1 strand from the front, 1 strand from the back, and crimped it to the one that is going in the center already. And now I'm going to take this and do another crimp with the remaining 3 strands. And I just moved one of the strands so that I've got at least 1 strand on the opposite side. It's a lot of crimps. I buy these in bulk because I seem to come up with projects that love to use crimps.
Yeah, I feel like most of my necklaces use 1 or 2 crimps. I like the ones that you can use 1 a lot. An extra long piece.
Guess I'm a crimping queen. I don't know. I don't mind it. But I guess this is why I got so good at these pliers so fast. Because I use a billion crimps. Okay. And if your crimping is not the best, this is a great actually project for you to practice these pliers on, because, and honestly, you can practice with these pliers anytime and just put a crimp cover over it if it looks terrible. Because I've definitely done that before. But this is a great project to practice these on, because we're going to cover these up. So if it doesn't look perfect, that is okay. So we've got these separated into 2 sets of 2, essentially, or 2 sets of 3. And then we're going to come in and, oh, the picture, you switch it back and I saw it in the corner of my eye and I was like, what's going on?
Everything's okay, Rachel.
Yeah, everything's fine. Okay. So I'm going to put one of my little stoppers on the bottom just to keep one of these from sliding. And then we are going to do this kind of again, but it's going to be way easier this time. And like I said, if you can string 4 of these through, it'll be way easier on you. So I've got my bead. I just strung it on the wire, and I'm going to string a crimp on. This is the easiest part of the whole project now. That first part is really tricky. I just flung the crimp across the room. I'll never see it again. There goes 25 cents or however much these are. They're not quite that much.
No.
What I love is, if you guys haven't seen, Softflex has oxidized sterling silver crimps. And I love that because I was stringing them all onto a wire and oxidizing them myself. And it takes a long time to string 100 crimps onto a wire and oxidize them yourself.
That was a good call for you to stock up on those.
So I'm just coming in and I'm using my magical crimping pliers. Like I said, you can use regular crimping pliers. I've actually never crimped regular crimping pliers with 3 strands before. It doesn't sound like fun to me, but if you are a crimping master, absolutely go for it. Okay, and I'm going to do that 2 more times, or however many times you want to do it with however many beads you have. I did mine with 7 beads. So it's going to be 3 on each side.
The project
My
just got
wires all
simpler.
I know,
I
it's so much easier now. It starts out a little confusing with all the strands, but as soon as you get it down to 3, it's so much easier.
And I totally now see how the design works, why there's 3 strands.
Yes.
2 for decoration. Because
And
I guess
1 for
theoretically you can make this
actual.
piece, you could make this without the strands showing as well. But maybe, how would you crimp on one strand of crimp? I guess you could.
What do you mean?
Or just,
Oh, you mean to put in between them?
or don't crimp between them and just put a bead there and then wrap the bead in wire. Like you're,
This crimp is not.
does that make sense? Is that a crazy idea?
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy. You could wrap the bead in wire, but I think part of what helps this work is that there's like the strands in between. I don't know. Try it and let me know how it goes.
Yeah, I guess also this part of the strength of this piece is that there are 3 strands holding that bead in
And again,
place.
these beads I'm using right now are huge. They're not a size that I feel like I've ever seen again that came like on a strand. They're
Oh
40
yeah,
millimeters. They're
anytime I get
bananas.
beads that big, I sell them by the piece because it's a pendant size at 40 millimeters.
And I've used these as a pendant before. Okay, so this is the last one on this side. Am I still off camera? No. Okay. Come back. Come back. I like to use these to catch the bead too. If you don't push all the way down, you can catch the crimp and then push it into place. I like watching Sarah Ayler do this because she like spins them around. Like she does like fancy bar tricks. She's magic with them. Okay, now I'm gonna flip it over so I can do the other side easier. And if it kind of pulls away like this, it's okay because it's not going anywhere because we definitely have each end anchored to that center.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna wrap it in wire, so we'll fix it.
So there is going to be some overlap of the beads on the second row.
Yeah, just a little bit. But when you wear it, it'll pull them apart a little bit more.
Okay.
On the bead mat, everything looks super, but yeah, these are huge. They're so big.
I don't mind them.
Barely any overlap on these, but on these, I thought about trying this design with these turquoise barrels I had got from you.
Yeah.
But I wanted to show it in something I probably wouldn't have to finesse with. So it was easier to just show you the technique on something that's kind of flat like this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, because
the barrels, I feel like I would have had to like pinch it down and like hold it in place. I think it would have been harder.
Yeah, I could see that.
Not impossible to do, just harder to show.
I'm wanting to steal this like wire wrap technique that you've proposed to us. I think it is.
Go for it. I love it when people steal my techniques.
I see
because
so
I always
many
learn something.
Like I want to do a similar thing with this project, but there's something about that technique that's gonna, like, I feel translate literally to anything. Anytime you want those little accents with stringing, you can just add little wire accents. It makes so much sense.
Yeah. And that's part of like why Softflex has all the colors is they want you to be able to show it off.
Yeah, featured as a design element.
Okay, I've got one more. And somebody was asking about my cats. I locked them in their cage because it's kind of their dinner time, and they ate breakfast pretty late today, so they're going to have a late dinner. And but Oliver gets very demanding, and he likes to scream at me. So I thought that it was best for all our ears that I give them just like a little bit of chill time in the cage while I'm teaching.
That sounds fair. I hope your cats are doing well.
They're fine. Oliver loves that cage. He sleeps in it. He puts himself in there. Marauder doesn't care for it, but we took a vacation a couple years ago, and we drove down to see my parents, and I had bought a second cage so that they didn't have to be shoved into one cage, and they screamed at me the whole ride to be put in the same cage together. They were not happy apart.
Oh,
So
sweet babies.
I know they love each other. I have such good cats. Like honestly, I forget that sometimes cats get a bad rep because they're not always the nicest, but I have the sweetest cats. Okay.
They only mostly hid from me when I visited.
Yeah, they'll do that. They'll come out eventually. Okay.
Is it that fantastic wire time?
Yes, it's wire time. So we're gonna get ourselves like a nice long piece of wire. This is probably, let's see, I don't know. This is probably like 20 inches, maybe a little longer. Maybe I should actually measure it so that I feel like everyone doesn't love it when you don't measure it. I want to make sure I'm gonna have enough. I only have to cover this like 8 inches of space right here, but it's gonna be wrapped around. So so this is 18 and 5 is 23. Is that right? I think that's right. Yeah. This is like 23 inches. It's probably gonna be too much, but I like to have a lot. So I'm gonna come and thread it through on this side. So threading it through where everything is kind of converging at the top of the beads. And I'm gonna pull it through, and then I'm gonna put a wire guardian on it because I prefer to anchor it once everything else is anchored. So now I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna wrap these two together so that all of my pieces stay together. And then we're gonna string on seed beads. Do I want to be picky and just try to use all the gold ones? But I think I'm just gonna pick up all of them. I love the gold ones though.
Yeah, those bronzy gold ones are my favorite little spacer right now.
They're so pretty. Okay. So while I'm doing this,
Yes.
I should like tell you a story or something.
Did you come prepared with the story, Rachel, for us?
I did not. I think it was
I attended my first Ash Wednesday service on Wednesday.
Oh.
I've always been fascinated to like see it and like how it all works. I was not there for just.
That is.
Okay, great. This is two Jews leading a class. Ash Wednesday. Oh God, don't leave me to explain Ash Wednesday. So Ash Wednesday, I believe, starts Lent. But please,
okay, wait,
Shara, when you ultimately watch this, do not yell at me if I get this wrong. It starts the many weeks of Lent that lead up to, I believe, Easter. So the reason I was there is I got asked to sing in this like professional choir at a church near here, and there was some very pretty music. and I got to see my first Ash Wednesday service, which is the one where they put like ash on your forehead. Oh my God, I was right. It starts Lent. Boom. I understand other religions.
Awesome.
All right, you strung them up. I have story done.
Okay, I strung them up, and now I'm going to take my wire and wrap it around. I like have a love-hate relationship with seed beads because inevitably I always end up flinging them everywhere while I'm working with them. You're going to be all over the place by the time I'm done with this. So wrap it around as many times as you think looks good. And then you're going to try and end it kind of somewhere near the hole for the next bead. So I'm just going to pull a couple off. And then I am going to stick the wire into the next bead and repeat that.
I was imagining that each little wrapping was its own piece of wire.
No.
I'm curious, why did you find that this had like a better structure to it to put?
I didn't like the idea of wrapping a bunch of pieces of wire in between. It sounded like a pain. So
You do with one piece.
I wanted them to all be on the same piece of wire, and then I didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, you didn't have to worry about them like unwinding.
I did actually a little bit try to wrap onto one of these, and the softflex is just so thin that it's like wrapping wire onto the tiniest, thinnest thing in the entire world, and is very frustrating.
Right.
Just starting on some more beads. I always want to be able to like stick my needle through the center of the pile of seed beads, and I'd be like, I could pick up all of them, and then I cannot pick up all of them. I don't know if that made any sense. I just feel like
do.
it should be easier
I
to
also
string
did a poking technique until it works. It eventually works. It's like you have your
it
own.
It takes
spinner.
much longer than just picking them up. Somebody asked what my favorite part of the cruise was, and I have to say, my favorite part was that I had a balcony in my cabin, and I'm just wrapping this around again. I had a balcony in my cabin in my room, and I would sit out there and have coffee in the mornings and like read on my Kindle, and it was very nice.
Do they have Starbucks on the cruise, Rachel?
They do. You have to pay extra for it. So I didn't get that package because I'm not allowed to say anything negative about my job. So just suffice it to say, I was okay with the cheaper coffee.
You were saving money.
Yeah, I didn't want to spend the money on the Starbucks coffee. So
Was
I
it like
had
a whole Starbucks? Do they have a Starbucks?
It was like a whole Starbucks, yeah.
Do they accept your Starbucks card?
No, I thought they did, but they don't. They didn't
Rude.
accept my discount either, so I definitely only went there once. Also, because I like to make my own drink, it's never made the right way if I don't make it myself. So.
That's a very Rachel Mallis statement.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I was reading comments. But yeah, they had also like a little in the dining hall. They had like a espresso machine, and you could also pay extra for somebody to just make you that. It was like a couple dollars cheaper than Starbucks, not mind-blowingly cheaper.
How was the food on board?
It was great. There was
Is it
like
all included?
not all of it. There's like a couple of restaurants that are included, and then there's probably like 5 or 6 that are not included, including one that was Alice in Wonderland themed. The concept of the food was all incredibly conceptual. So it was very interesting. It was not all very tasty, but it was very interesting.
What was like what kind of food was it?
Well, for example, there was a deconstructed caprese salad, and the tomato had been like almost turned into candy. It had been like dehydrated, and then it was like it was bizarre. I'm not sure how to describe it. And then they had ricotta on it, and it was like freeze dried ricotta. It was very cool looking. Okay, so I'm at the end of this now, and I'm just gonna wrap my wire around to
Oh, so
anchor
you're
it,
not
and then
gonna
I'm
see
gonna cut it off.
last link.
You could if you wanted, but there's not really anything to thread them back into at this point.
I'm thinking it's because we're running a little low on time. Do you want to show us like finish off this side of the necklace and then
Yeah.
so we can see how it comes
So
together?
we'll take the wire off this end. And when you go in with your second piece of wire, you can either anchor it at the end if you can fit another strand through here, or you can anchor it kind of up in here and then to just keep doing it by the rest of the way. So I'm gonna wrap that off. And now they're now they're held together. I'm having trouble speaking today. The first person I've talked to today besides my cats.
Good to see you.
So then at this point, we're gonna pretend like I've strung a bunch of beads on here. And I'll show you how to finish it off. We're gonna use 2 crimps to finish it off because it is 3 strands.
Okay.
And I'll show you what I mean by that. If it was 2 strands, I would only need 1 crimp. But because it's 3 strands, it makes it a little bit more
Oh, because the
challenging.
fourth make the loop.
Yeah, the fourth would make the loop if I wanted to loop it back through, but that's just too many strands through the crimp bead.
Mm-hmm.
So get some crimps off. So I'm going to string all 3 of these through my crimp. Okay. First I drop it 3 times. I guess that's part of it.
It's the charm of it.
Yeah. Oh, it's so cute. You could keep doing this too. You could like string and then crimp, a string and then crimp, and that would be
Yeah, it's
really
actually
cute.
really pretty.
So I'm going to come in with my crimpers.
Do you wish you had the ergonomic ones? Have you tried the ergonomic ones? I've been intrigued to
If
feel
you want to send me the ergonomic ones, absolutely you can send me the ergonomic ones. Do I wish I had them? Yes. Do I wish I had them enough to throw these out and buy another pair? No. But for a project like this where there's a lot of crimps, it would be nice to have ones with a nicer handle, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm just doing like 1 crimp, it's whatever. Okay, so at this point then, I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut off 2 of these. And then I'm kind of a crimp rebel. I don't usually crimp my crimps when they're attached to something.
Oh yeah, I never do.
And I just pull it down until there's a loop. Except for I got my finger stuck. There we go. And because if you are using the regular medium soft flex, absolutely use your magical crimping pliers here. Because I'm using this Econoflex, 2 strands in the magical crimping pliers is not secure. So I'm going to use my regular crimp pliers.
You
Even
can't.
though this says
Because it's thinner. Oh, because it's thinner than the
yeah,
medium.
even though it says it's medium on it, it's not exactly, it's not the same. So I have learned
The
that.
other solution there being to insert a scrap piece as your third strand.
Yeah, I guess you can do that.
I'm throwing that out there for the folks watching, Rachel.
Oh, and then in my original, sorry.
Most of what I say, Rachel, is not directed at
Not
you.
to me. Okay,
Rachel, you know I've
so
learned a lot from you.
yeah, I don't usually do the. I try to find a way to where I don't have to add an additional strand in there. It seems like more work. So anyway, in my original design, I put crimp covers on them because one of them was not a little ball, and that made me sad. So I put crimp covers on. So that's how you do that. And then you can finish this end however you want. You can leave it as kind of like a tassel. You can add some beads to it. You can just cut it off if you want to.
How would you add beads to that?
You just put beads on the strands and then crimp them.
So you'd have to, you put beads on and then crimp multiple strands together so you could crimp it?
Yeah, that's what I would probably do. Or you can fold over the end and crimp it. You can make a bunch of you could do it like this and make a bunch of
little loopies?
little loops. Yes, perfect. I should come up with like a fun term like Neely has, like loopity doopities. I was watching your last week. I don't always comment when I'm there, but yeah, I was like cracking up. Okay.
Oh, wait,
So
let's just
there's that.
Cool. So just to review the kind of the basic techniques here is we went through the 6-strand technique for this, and adding the wire, using the magical crimping pliers. So there's a nice little mix, and you kind of almost made an accidental tassel as well. So
Yes.
It's a nice little mix of techniques you mixed into this. It's really cool.
Thank you. Okay, and now I'm going to show you really quick, if I can, because I said in the thing that I was going to show how to make the clasp. Get my 18 gauge wire. I like to work off the spool. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the end, even though I'm going to be cutting it again. And then I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers, and I'm going to bend all the way on the end. I'm going to bend and make like we're making this side right now. So make your arch, I don't know, a loop. Words are hard today. I'm going to cut this a little shorter because it's a little long, in my opinion. And then I'm going to come in with my pliers and grab this and make a loop. And then I'm going to grab them again. But I'm going to grab a piece. It's hard to hold things with the round nose pliers because they're not meant
So you're making your eye first.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever
you can absolutely
like that.
huh?
I like that. I've never seen it made quite like that. I like that a lot.
I came up with it the other day, and it looks like a light bulb to me, and I like it.
Would you be willing to show that one more time?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we didn't lose any of the steps.
So I'm coming in with my pliers, and I'm going all the way down to the end of them, and I'm looping this over. I keep making it too long. We're going to trim it. If you're new to wire working, keep one thing that I feel like does not get mentioned enough is keep an eye on your ends when you're cutting.
Yep.
You'll notice like I keep my finger on it because otherwise you may get shot in the eye.
Yep.
They'll shoot your eye out. Um, okay, and then I'm gonna come up under here, grab my pliers, and make a loop. Have a child in your house?
I think it's a child on the sidewalk.
Oh,
We have no soundproofing or any sort of insulation in this house it's like from 1910.
oh.
We hear
I came
everything.
back from my vacation to find that a family with like a bajillion kids moved in down the hall, and they like to let their kids run up and down the hall screaming. It's
Oh,
really
Rachel's
fun.
your favorite thing is loud neighbors. So it's just like a little present, a little
Love loud
welcome back
neighbors.
present for you.
Yeah. My boyfriend's like, "You were gone. A family with kids moved in," and I was like, "Oh no." But
All right, so we've got our eye.
yes, and then we're gonna do the. I'm gonna cut the end though. We're gonna do the exact same thing for the hook, pretty much, all the way down to the end, and then. But then, when we loop our wire around, we're gonna go underneath the hook, like through it. There we go. Like I said, you can do this with 20 gauge wire and then I would hammer it, but the 18 gauge really doesn't need to be hammered.
For folks who are newer to wire work, Rachel's mentioning hammering to help work harden the metal so that it's a bit stiffer and will hold its shape better.
Yeah, so it doesn't pull apart really easily. And then what I like to do is I like to come in with my chain nose pliers and I like to flick the end up. I think it makes it look a little fancier. And then you can always test your clasp. And then what I like to do is I like to squeeze this tighter so that it's, yes, it's a little bit harder to get on, but it's also a lot harder to get off.
Yeah.
So it's not going to fall off.
That's a lovely little clasp technique.
Thank you.
I always because I always when I was the other day I was like looking for clasp. I'm like, why don't I have clasp? I'm like, oh right, because I've always just like made clasps. I always would make
Yeah.
up some sort of clasp. And so it's always nice to have a new one to try.
I find it to be a lot, especially since I sell a lot of my work, it's a lot more affordable for customers if I make my clasps because buying sterling silver clasps, they're ridiculous. They're like, it's like $10 for a clasp. It's just a
Mhm.
lot.
Sure.
Where if I make it, it's just as good. At least for the like hook and eye clasps. The lobster clasps, I'm not gonna try to make one of those on my own. That's just like a little bit above my skill level.
I don't think you need to make one on your own.
But that is how you make that. And then you can attach this either with jump rings or you could have made this beforehand and crimped it on when you finished the
Yeah, that's probably the most secure. And now
but
we get.
because the the
What do you say?
wire so the wire's so thick that a jump ring won't hurt, I think, as long as you have good jump rings. But
Nice. Can we have a final look at the piece, Rachel?
oh yes, the half of the piece that is finished,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And
I like make it all go in there.
well, I certainly think you've pulled off design with chunky gemstones, and I think you've even made it larger than you even meant to within in your original
These
design.
are definitely huge.
And you could also do this with a fewer number of them, and you could also
Mhm.
mix up the sizes. They don't all have to be the
You could do
same.
this with small beads too if you really wanted to, like much smaller ones. This would work this technique would work with these apatite that I got, and like this would be a good thing to show you. For example, so I said these are 40 millimeters. Well, these are 18 by 13. So just to give you a size comparison. These are
Yeah.
huge.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this with us, Rachel. This was really fun.
Thanks for being here, guys.
And what do we say at the end of every class? Don't forget to. You always used to be so good about reminding folks to share what they make in Gem.
Please don't forget to share what you make in GemChat. If you make anything, literally anything, it doesn't have to be this. Share what you make in GemChat. We love to see it.
Yes.
And feel free to tag me because I don't always see it.
Yeah, tag both of us. We can see your final project from class and say that it was inspired by today's class.
It sure has plants on it.
Indeed. It has succulents. Well, I think there's also a snake plant potentially. All righty.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.